Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 304 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today I welcome Markivus Nious. He is a music producer, artist, and the host of Deeper Than Music. It's a platform that I was featured on about a month and a half ago, and we had a great discussion the first time around. So I wanted to return the favor today and have Markivus on the show this week. Very cool conversation. He talked about having, almost 30 years at this point experience in music, coming from a military background and traveling all over the world, starting a family, doing all that. But in the meantime, he's stayed committed to his craft throughout the years, even taking breaks here and there, but always coming back to it, always centering around his passion. And the importance of just keeping that involved and how it has evolved over the years for him. He talked about Deeper Than Music, the story behind the platform, what it's meant to be able to open new doors through conversation and through meeting some other awesome individuals, something I can relate to, and I think anybody else with a podcast platform can definitely also relate to. And then just talked about his journey lately in music, putting out more instrumentals, trying different styles and genres, and approaching the world of sync licensing, which is obviously a world that is very hard to get into, but one that he has found a lot of nice footing with in recent years. And then his long-term goals to make Nious Media a huge production house to accompany a lot of amazing projects in the years to come. So I thank Markivus for joining me once again. Very happy to have gotten connected with him in the first place, and I thank him again for allowing me to speak on his platform. And I'm excited to get him back on here, hopefully in the next few years, to check in on his progress with everything he's working on. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this one too. So without further ado, let's get into it. But we usually have the guests kind of start off with, how did you get led to the world of music, and how did you get kind of started in that? Because obviously you have a military background, you come from that, and I'm interested to know how you got into music from that point.
Okay. Yeah, so before I joined the military, I had the opportunity where I was a senior in high school to first be a part of a broadcasting academy in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. It was the Hancock Broadcasting Academy for then WBSL AM 1190. And from that time, I actually got a job working at the radio station. But previous to that, being a military brat, I got to travel the world. And I think around 16, I really got into hip-hop when I lived into New Jersey, started getting into rhyming, became part of a collective called Diverse. And then actually one of my friends, mentors, rest in peace, Falon Smith, he was our producer. So I was doing that, moved to Mississippi, got the job working at WBSL. So it allowed me to see how radio and how music intertwine and how that business works. So then when I joined the military, kind of suppressed doing music, but then I actually met another producer, one of my coworkers. He did music, Mario. He did music with a company called The Bomb Entertainment. I became one of his artists, and I was one of those people that we work on music. I just sit at his house and learn how to do music and stuff like that, and really learned how to do music and stuff like that. So then when I finally transferred from Central California to San Diego, I decided, you know what, I'm going to start my own music. I'm going to do my own thing. Bought a DR-808, a little beat machine, a Casio keyboard, and started really honing my skills. And then back in, I want to say in 2000, I started my first label, Secrets of Society Records, and it was with me and two other of my shipmates. At the time, we were stationed on a ship, and we just, two producers, myself, we had some other artists. really learned how to do music on a Roland. It was like a Roland workstation. We made like underground CDs. We performed in like Cabo San Lucas, San Francisco, and basically sold our music to people on the ship, and then took advantage of traveling around the world. And then when I got out of the military, um, shortly thereafter, I started my now record label, Standalone Music. So that's been since 2003. Then that's when I came out with two releases. And through that venture, I met up with some mentors. One of my mentors is Gary Devon of MVE Records. And it just from that, just the collective of people that I worked with, we all kept in touch and helped each other doing things. So now people are doing stuff like myself in the multimedia sphere. Gary Devine now does like music, like indie films, really heavy into sync licensing. So I got into that, and it's just a collective of people that have grown throughout the music industry and just kind of splintered out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it started through the military and just kept pursuing that. Like, your calling always calls you. So it would always, call me during my ventures. And I just took advantage of my position of being in the military and traveling the world and just networking with people.
Yeah. How crazy does it feel that for you that's been almost a 30-year journey at this point? Like from that time to now, does that feel like surreal for you?
Yeah, it feels surreal because I was actually, because every now and then, things will pop up or I'll just research things. And Elon Musk has, what's it called, Grokpedia?
Yeah.
And I just happened to like do some research, and it was like, I'm on Grokpedia, and it's like, 27 years doing music. I was like, wow, it's crazy. And then the crazy part is to see just, there, in my mind, there's a lot of talented people, but you have to have the drive and ambitious, and to see throughout that 20-year journey, the people that I've done music with and done things with, to see where they are now, to see that some of them have done some really amazing things, and being grateful that, I've been able to, they come back and like, hey man, I got this opportunity. So
yeah. And not only that, I think it's great that a lot of the people that you started with are still going as well. Because I know for people that have been doing it, especially that long, I think a lot of like their peers start to fall off at some point, right? They kind of get into other things, or maybe life kind of gets in the way and they have to put music and things like that on the back burner. So it's great to hear that you all are somewhat still involved in this world as well. And I guess that leads me into a good question about longevity for you and the changes you've seen over the last 25 plus years, because there's been so many changes in the music and the industry. How do you think you've been able to maneuver those over the years and continue on and keep putting out content and keep doing your thing?
So you bring up a good thing, because there has been breaking periods, and like you said, life happens. So there's been times where, 2003 to 2006, I'll say that's when I put out 2 albums. I was touring on the East Coast. New England, just all over New England. At one point, I was charting with Ludacris, had a relationship with, just with radio and stuff like that. My daughter was born, the best thing that ever happened in my life. And that was when I was like, hey, I need to kind of slow down and be a father and live life. One of my old managers at the time, she was like, do you realize that, you were charting with Ludacris, and like I was doing a lot of big things on the East Coast. And it was like, hey, we could have been bigger than what we were. And it's like, no, life happened the way it was supposed to happen. Because even now, with my podcast, Deeper Than Music with Markivus, I interview celebrities or people in that era, and the music business is crazy. Like, I'm glad I got to pick and choose when I could go in and out. But to speak to that, there were breaking periods. What kept my longevity was people that, my peers that still did music, because there was a time that I really wasn't doing music. And my mentor, Gary Devon, he kept doing music while I kind of slowed down. He was like, look, man, I got this label for this one album. I want you to sign and do this. So that brought me back into 2011. We did My Thoughts. And at this time, he had a whole bunch of hookups. And he basically was like, all right, we're going to get this person. We're going to get this rising person on there. The album has a whole bunch of sync opportunities. One of the songs we did was Grammy considered. So part of the longevity was people reaching out to me like, hey, this is what you do. I'm going to pull you back into it. and just networking. And then finally, once I got back into doing it, because there's always been breaks. Like, so 2006 was a break. 2011, I started working with Gary Devine. Then after that, there was a break. Then I really didn't get back into it until 2015, and that's when we did the Grammy considered song. And then even in like 2017, 2018, there was another break. And then 2020, I did something. Then COVID hit. There was another break. So it was always people coming back in, and then also like you keeping it multifaceted. When I wasn't feeling music, I knew that because of radio, hey, if I do a podcast, Deeper Than Music, my name will still be out there.
Yeah.
It'll still be out there. I'll still be connected with musicians. And then if I want to get back into it, I can do it. But like you said, life happens. And I think the difference between people that fall off and people that do, you just got to stay consistent.
Yeah.
As with anything, you have to stay consistent.
Yeah. And it's like you said earlier about how if it's your calling, it'll always be around. It'll always be there. So it's a lot easier to get back into it as opposed to something that might not be necessarily something that you're super passionate about. It's harder to jump back into that at any point in time during your life. So I think that speaks for you about how passionate you are about creativity and about art and about music in general. To be able to do that. And I definitely want to touch on the show Deeper Than Music because that's obviously how you and I got connected in the first place. And I think I looked that the first episode you did, or at least the first one on Spotify I could find, was in 2018. So talk to me about kind of the origins of the show and what led you to want to be able to do this platform. And obviously you're 7+ years running at this point. How has that been for you to be able to have a platform of your own?
So another part of the calling was I always wanted to get back into to radio. Radio was like a gatekeeper. When I used to work there, it was the gatekeeper. Radio was the one that, hey, this is the platform that's gonna it's the gatekeeper. Yeah. It's like radio was like we say back in the day, radio was it. I remember the important thing back in the early 2000s, hey, you got to do college runs. A lot of artists would break in college radio and then break out. Hootie and the Blowfish. But now it's a whole different era. And I always used to watch the story behind the music. I always was fascinated about, okay, how did this person get into industry? What was their journey like? I always was interested into the journey behind the music. And then back in the CD and tape days, I would be the person reading the CD or like the insert. Okay, who produced it? What was the story behind the song? Like one of my favorite artists is Sting. Like the dude is a phenomenal songwriter. He has a book called Lyrics. So I was like, man, I want to get back into the radio. And at the time, I lived in Dallas, and there was an online radio station called TMI Radio. So I was like, all right, I want to be on this online radio station. Shout out to Kevin Hopwood. He's the owner of the TMI Media and stuff like that. So I talked to him, and the way I pitched it to him was like, hey, I want to do a show where I want to know behind the music. And I was like, I always wondered when Michael Jackson wrote, when he wrote Human Nature, it sounds like he's in New York City. And I was like that, I want to know what was the pitch when he wrote, Human Nature. Yeah. And then I got the show in Dallas, and I started like interviewing people in Dallas, celebrities, up and comers. But unfortunately, at the time, the job that I was working, I was always traveling. So it wasn't sustainable because I couldn't keep it consistent. Like one day I'd be in Bogota, one day I'd be in Zurich, Switzerland, one day I'd be in Brussels, and I'm like, this is unsustainable. Yeah. So then doing research, I found out about a platform where I could do it on my own time, and I did it and stuck with it. COVID happened, and I kind of moved from Dallas to Southern Illinois and now to North Carolina. And there's been, even with that, there's been breaking periods. But because of that, there's always like, and too, you have a catalog. And then when I had the breaking periods, there was always the catalog, and there was always, I built like a rapport with PR firms. And even before the world shut down, shout out to Jimmy Starr, World Star PR. In February, I got to host the Oscar Gala in Hollywood with Sue Wong's Oscar Gala. And I met a gang of celebrities. I met a gang of PR people, and they always kept in touch, and they would always reach out. And I just decided to keep it going. It went on hiatus. And now that I'm in a stable situation, I just kept going. And the cool thing about having it for 7 years, it's always generated revenue. It's always evergreen, and it was something that at one point I got into because of the association with. I had a small movie role, got to be in IMDb, and as I talk to these celebrities, that connects me to IMDb. So it was a door opener. Doing it on your own terms.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Wanted to take a quick minute out of today's episode to let you guys know of a way that you can support the show, a way that you can donate some funds to us, starting at as little as $5 or more via our Ko-fi page. Now, we've been using Ko-fi now for a few years, and it's been a very effective way to generate some funds that we end up using for, future guests, sponsors, just an overall way to keep this show as quality as it has been for the last several years, and we always appreciate any and all contributions. So if you go to coffee.com/The Proven Knowledge Podcast, that's ko-fi.com/The Proven Knowledge Podcast, you can donate, like I said, $5 or more. It gives you that option to do 10, 20, 30, or just type in whatever amount. Any contributions are appreciated, and I do this show from the bottom of my heart for the love of it at the end of the day, but those funds are always welcome because they do allow us to do more and be more flexible with how we continue to grow this platform in the future. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that. The link will be in the description of the show notes of this episode you're listening to now, so definitely check it out. But without further ado, let's get back into the episode. That's the thing. It's like having that independence is the big thing. It's just like in music. It's like when you have that ability to just kind of move how you want to move and put things out as you want to put them out. It's great to be able to do that. And something I can definitely relate to with my own platform as well is those doors that get open from having a platform like that. Because I don't know about you, when I started making music, I didn't envision like running a show, and I definitely didn't envision the amount of people I met through doing a platform like that. So it's great to hear that the experience for you is very similar in that way, which is super awesome. And congrats on doing it this long and doing such a great platform in general, because it was definitely a fun interview when I was on there, and I can tell just from hearing the guests that you have on, you get a lot out of the guests through the conversations, which I think is the best part about your show and the best part of the podcast in general. So congrats on that, man, for sure.
Thanks. We're musicians, so you know how it is, man. We can speak the language.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that on your show too. I was like, I could never just small talk with someone about like normal things, like normal people things most of the time. But half the other time, if we're talking music, I could talk your leg off about that. You know what I mean? So it kind of becomes a lot easier, which is definitely interesting. And obviously, you're still putting out music yourself. I think you just dropped a new track on Friday, I believe. Most recently,
was
so
Hope in High Places. So so I used to really be heavy into like hip hop. Still am heavy into hip hop. I feel like now being 48, middle aged, is things change, right? Things evolve, and I always wanted to make a lounge CD. And even at my capacity of being an artist and being in the background, I decided to do my own music long time ago because unfortunately, I learned the relationship between a producer and a rapper or a songwriter. And I've had a situation where the first label I was with, it didn't work out. But then it came like, hey, if you want to buy rights to your music and your stuff, $5,000. So I'm like, what the hell? And then I learned that if you make something in somebody's studio, they own it. And then back in the day, I had a friend named Art. I used to go to Guitar Center. Like one of my first keyboards was a Cord Triton. So I would go in there, mess with the keyboards and Guitar Center. And one of my friends that worked there was like, dude, don't do that. He's like, because what I do is I'll listen to somebody work on music, listen to it, and I'll fucking go back there, copy it, and save it to a disc. So I was like, damn. And that's how sometimes the music industry is. And I'm like, you know what? If I learn music and do this, I can do my own fate. And then sometimes it's hard to tell people like, can you do it this way? Can you do it that way?
Yeah.
So I really got fascinated with music because I've always had like this cinematic like mindset, like love music and movies, and just music can change things. And then learning how to produce, and then working with other producers and friends that do music, it was always something I did hip hop wise. But with hip hop, love hip hop to death. I always, when you probably feel this too, like, man, maybe if I venture into another genre, or maybe if I do this and that, and then with vocals, learning about sync licensing, most stations or most movies, they they sometimes want vocals, but they also want the music.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know what? Now I'm 40, 48. Like if I come out with a rap album, I want to talk about financial literacy. I want to talk about building a legacy. And it's like maybe not. It may not work. And I'm a perfectionist, especially when it comes to like doing rapping. And I'm like a perfectionist to a point where it's a fucking headache. The cadence has to be right. The mood has to be right. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want that pressure, but let me just experiment, start making music, and challenge myself to speak through just making music.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is, so I'm like 6 songs deep now. The fan base for the hip hop is different than the fan base for the music, because now with just the music is hungry. Brazil, Mexico, Budapest, Ukraine, and it's like cool because I always wanted to make mood music. Like I love I listen to mellow music and jazz, and sometimes that's where we get the ideas.
Yeah.
So this go around, I'm challenging myself to just do music.
Yeah, I love that. It allows for diversification too within your sound and your style, and I think that's cool because I always look at it like there's fans that will be a fan of one style that you have. There's fans that might be a fan of the other style, and then there's people that might love both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In that, which is super exciting to think about. And I feel the same way. I feel like the older that I'm getting, especially as a fan of music, I don't listen to the same stuff I listened to 10 years ago because I was at like a different point in life. I feel like now I'm listening to more artists that are talking about things that I can relate to now at the point I'm at in my life. And I'm sure 10 years from now it might change again. So I think that's a great approach to have in your own music is like, well, I'm not going to make stuff that I can't relate to. I need to be able to relate to it on a human level, and then therefore it'll translate to whoever's hearing it as a listener. And to me, that's the only approach you can have because it's super authentic. You know what I mean? Whether it is just instrumental or you're putting lyrics to it, doesn't matter. I think you have to stay rooted in that no matter what. So that's definitely exciting. And obviously being able to do scores and do things for sync is definitely a great thing to pursue. What type of success have you seen from that so far as either landing placements or just kind of getting better at the process of how to approach doing music for sync? Because it really is a different world. It's totally different than just throwing something on Spotify and calling it a day. Like, how has that journey been up to this point?
So from the hip hop perspective, my music's been on Dance Moms, Breaking Amish, Black Ink Crew. Recently, one guy used the song for UFC Fight Night when he's walking out.
Nice.
So it's been cool. There has been some success. Instrumental wise, somebody used one of my songs for a program for the BBC. For a while, they used it as an intro song, and that was cool. One thing that I want to crack, I'm interested in cracking, is video games. Like somebody used one of my songs for an app. And, hey, can I use this for a game? I was like, yeah, whatever. And I started seeing the royalties. I was like, oh snap! Like, because at first I was like, yeah, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. This is an app.
Yeah.
So I've seen some successes, and then I actually started researching artists like RZA, like Trent Reznor. Like I didn't realize he's like Tron and stuff like that in the transition, and then kind of like asked like kind of the AI like ChatGPT, like for artists, it's a natural thing, right? Because we know sound production, we know sound engineering and sound design, and even like you do on my Deeper Than Music and then my 40 Something Gamers podcast, I put my music on there.
Yeah,
like I self sync, and then a cool thing too is like one thing I didn't realize is, like you said, there's no barriers because language, there is a barrier. and I didn't realize like Budapest, Eastern Europe is big on that. And then I did like a Latin kind of like instrumental, heavy in Brazil and Latin America. And I didn't know that was a big market for music. So yeah, it's been a pretty good journey. It's just something I want to challenge myself to do, because it was always, as an artist, one of the frustrations was like doing songs and trying to do things. And I remember like early on, there was a review of one of my songs from my 2005 Still Standing album. And the guy was like, he said something like, if Mark's musical maturity or musical composition matches his lyrics, he'll be in a great space. So that was the target. I want my music capabilities to match my penmanship.
Yeah, keeping everything at the highest level at every step. I think that's a huge part of it too. So that's definitely exciting. And I guess I would have to ask as well, in 2026, we're kind of like a quarter of the way through at this point. What other goals do you have for, I guess, the rest of the year? It could be musically or just the journey overall, or with the show, the podcast as well. What are your big goals?
So I want to transition deeper than music, and then also I have another podcast, 40 Something Gamers. I want to transition that to video on demand services. So that'll be the next thing. And then I'm trying to be like you, like every 4 to 6 weeks, I want to drop instrumentals. I want to build that catalog, and then really push for like sync licensing. And then maybe if I feel like doing a lyrical song or something, I'll do that as well.
Yeah. More volume, but also quality with the volume. I think that's kind of meeting in the middle. So that's definitely exciting for sure. And we're down to the last few questions here. These are ones I ask on every single episode. The first one is, if you could go back 10 years ago, give yourself any piece of advice, or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
I would tell myself discernment. Like, be discerned, have discernment with the people that you work with. Don't say yes to everything. My mom told me a long time ago, and I didn't understand this until later in life. She's like, you want to have people in your circle that are either at your level or above your level. Like I said, there's a gang of talented people, but you can't. God helps those who helps themselves. The difference between a talented person and a talented person that's successful is they believe in their vision. You can't believe in somebody's vision more than they will. And that's the advice I would give myself.
Yeah, I think that's any like successful collaboration. If both people aren't on the same page, it's not gonna work. Like no matter what. And there's so much peace in saying the word no. I think we can all kind of relate to that in our own ways. Like you say no, it's like a weight off your shoulders. You're like, oh, thank God. Like I don't have to commit to this. But I definitely think a lot of people can relate to that in their own way, no matter how their journey is kind of unfolded. So, and then we usually flip that question and we say 10 years from now, where do you think you envision music, the platform, and just life overall?
So I would, like I said, man, I am impressed with your output, bro. I'm trying to I'm like, this dude got seasons, and so I wanna build like a catalog like that, evergreen. I want to like, as far as syncs, like it would be cool to be the go-to place for like, hey, if you there's like companies like MusicBed, right? They have a catalog, and you build relationships with people, right? Have that relationship, like, hey, if you need music, because I've been in that situation before. One of my friends, old school show called what was it, Pimp My Ride, then Room Raiders. One of my friends that was a producer, he had a relationship with one of the music supervisors, and they'd be like, hey, we need music for these shows. My goal was to have that, and at least have some syncs with video games. And then as far as with the podcast, video on demand, I have a company in the background called Nious Media. So it encompasses my record label, standalone music, and the two podcasts, really building on Nious Media. One thing I want to speak about that you mentioned, when I started off 20 years ago, there were a lot of gatekeepers. Well, more than 20 years ago, there were a lot of gatekeepers. You had to go to the library. But now in this information age and opportunities, you can thrive as an independent, and interviewing celebrities and interviewing independent entities. I want to be in that in that niche where it's like, hey, Nious Media is its own independent creative outlet.
Yeah. It's almost like a full production house for a lot of these exciting projects, which is super awesome. So, man, I'm excited to see that kind of all unfold for you in the near future and beyond. That's definitely exciting stuff right there. And do you have any final words of wisdom for the listeners before we get out of here?
Yeah, don't think, do. Like, a lot of people, you are in a very good position right now. Like, the information is there. Back in my day, you had to go to the library. There were gatekeepers. Like, you needed to be signed. You don't need that no more. Like, you needed to go to the studio. Now you Anthony Church, man, you can do this in your own home, and bam, you know what I mean? Like, do it. Like, don't think, do. Like, anything is possible.
Yeah.
Like,
taking action, that's the step that a lot of people, I think, just skip over, and it's the most important one, right? Like, we have all these ideas, but we don't act on them most of the time. But once you do, things start to move in the right direction and get going. And well, Markivus, I gotta say, man, you're doing that in a great way, and I want to thank you again for obviously joining me today, but once again for allowing me to speak on your platform. And I'm just excited to see what you're going to be doing moving forward here in the near future and beyond. So congrats on everything. And this platform is always open to you, man. So if you ever want to stop back, the door's open. So thank you.
Yeah, likewise, man. And thank you for having me on your playlist, man. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Just want to say thank you for tuning in today. Be sure to hit that coffee link in the description of this episode if you'd like to donate any funds. And we'll see you back here with another new episode next week. As always, thank you for your support.